just kind of going through the last years working with tons of different types of clients. I work with a lot of clients who are coming from, they implemented keto and they found success with it in terms of, what they're, this is all individual as well, but in terms of just getting away from a lot of the food focus and just thinking about food all the time, having some benefits in terms of that mental clarity, that focus throughout the day, being able to implement a little bit more fasting a little bit easier if that was their goal. But I've just found that it's just so individual to the person and where they're coming from. So I like to kind of look at it on a spectrum. So if you look at kind of like a spectrum of body composition and activity level. So if you are on like the leaner side, the more active side, versus someone who's more on maybe they're overweight or obese, or they're suffering from any type of insulin resistance, or they're just a little bit more sedentary, like those are kind of like the two extremes, right? And so kind of thinking about implementing a ketogenic diet, I think the end more where you're kind of overweight, maybe a little bit sedentary, all of that, I think it has more implications on that side if you're looking to implement a ketogenic diet versus if you're on the leaner side. I still think there's benefits to going through a period of ketosis, just to kind of, if you are someone who has been high carb your whole life and you've never really experienced being in a state of ketosis, or, just experiencing that in general. A lot of people don't know that, we're actually born in a state of ketosis, and we go through the first kind of few weeks, months of our lives in a state of ketosis because we're either drinking our mom's breast milk, which is very high fat, or if we're on formula, if you're on a good formula, it's going to be high fat. And so you're actually in a state of ketosis. And we know also, like, if we look back kind of at our ancestors, right, we know that just like in the last, 10,000 years, our DNA and our genetics have not changed that much, right? But in the last 100 years, we've gone from hunter-gatherers to, factory and farming. And so if we look kind of back 100 years ago, or even 50 years ago, like a little bit more than that, our, ancestors, they were metabolically flexible by necessity. So they went into periods of ketosis just from necessity, but then they also went into periods of eating a little bit higher carbs, depending on the seasons, things like that. So that's kind of where that metabolic flexibility side comes into. I think that with keto, it can be beneficial for someone who is looking to, if they are coming from that higher carb, always higher carb for their entire life, never experienced ketosis or never experienced that state. If they are maybe a little bit more sedentary, so maybe they're only working out a few days a week, they have like an office job, they're really looking to, emphasize their mental clarity and their focus throughout the day. But again, it does come down to that individual. And I think one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle is the overall stress load that person is experiencing, especially when it comes to females, because those are a lot of the people that I work with are females. And so stress is one of the biggest things that I found for myself, that I made a lot of mistakes with the stress side of things, and thinking that, more is going to be better when it's actually not, going really far down like the fasting rabbit hole, because we know that keto and fasting can go hand in hand and it can be beneficial at certain periods of time. But if you're going like way down that, like, oh, if I fast a little bit, it's good. If I fast more, it's better. Not really. So I think that is one of the biggest things that I work with a lot of my clients with, is just, okay, where are you at in your overall stress throughout your life right now, right? Because stress all goes to the same place, whether it's from your training, from your, kids, screaming at home. And, I just had a client yesterday who we just started a fat loss phase, and she's like, I thought my kids were going back to school, and now with COVID, they're back at home, and now I'm all stressed out again. I'm like, all right, let's take a step back and reevaluate the plan.